Yeah, and I'm hoping to get at least one article on this out by our next stream. And then there's another article I want to write about your work in general that I want to get out as well. It isn't going to be from the documents; it'll just be about situations as they unfold right now. But
Wow.
get those two out.
If you're going to write about me, you should write about how I did HA's stream with gastroenteritis with a puke bucket sitting next to the computer.
Yeah, and today you've got a slip disc in the middle of Russian winter, unable to, having to drink water. No, it's awful. But I was wanting to write specifically about the fact that the NGOs of the Western humanitarian agencies don't support you and the hypocrisy of that. And that you see the same thing with Assange, the people that are going.
I had to laugh when I should give you some of the documents I have.
Yeah. I would love that.
Reporters Without Borders actually telling me in an email, sorry, your work is too political. And I'm like,
exactly.
Like,
do you think you're in exile?
I think I got targeted.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what am I supposed to write about the flower show and then you'll represent me,
Definitely. So, yeah, I was wanting to write about something about that type of situation that's happened.
I saw the same thing. I actually got a bit upset before reading EFF's wrap up for the year in technologists who are under threat. And they talk about who've been killed or detained. And they talk about like one in the UAE, one in Egypt, 2 guys went to Turkey, and one in Russia. There is not a word about malware tech blog in Las Vegas.
Exactly.
There is not a word about Julian Assange, who's one of the most significant technologists in the world, who's currently detained in the UK. There is not a word about, the oh God, what was the name? Barnaby Jack, or the Kiwi who was killed before his DEFCON lecture in the United States. There's not a word about the Aaron Schwartzes, the many technologists who have been suicided. There's not it's like the whole Western world doesn't exist. It's like it doesn't exist. And it upsets me that it comes from somewhere like EFF, because if people like EFF won't acknowledge technologists who are targeted in the West, who in the hell is going to?
Exactly. And what's the point of even being a humanitarian organization that pretends that it's protecting the politically targeted or the whatever, and then not doing that to the people that are targeted by Western intelligence agencies and political structures? It's completely hypocritical, and it basically it shows how empty the Western idea of being a progressive, democratic, open, free environment is. It's completely empty when you look at that situation. And I mean, it's a bit like when Assange was talking about Catalonia so much, and what Catalonia did is it showed how empty the idea of the European Union as a democratic group of nations was, and they weren't protecting.
They'll watch, but they won't speak, and that's the same thing. That's the same thing. Like New Zealand media, the biggest figures in New Zealand media followed me in 2011, followed me in 2012, followed me in 2013. They followed me in 2014. They watched me be persecuted. They watched the attempts on my life. They knew one of the most famous, the reporter of the year in New Zealand, I called her the day after I had nearly been driven off the cliff in New Zealand and told her what had happened to me. These people knew. They followed me on Twitter. They watched my content. They read my articles. They knew about Spin Bin, Conspin, all of it. And they said nothing. Not one of them ever wrote a single article. Not one of them ever put themselves on the line. They just watched. They knew it was happening. They just watched.
Yeah.
And the same thing from the government agencies. The same thing from, I mean, Helen Clark, the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand, has liked how many of my tweets. Like, she makes it apparent that she is watching my timeline and my content, that she's well aware of my situation. But will she ever speak up and say, hey, it's not okay that there is a New Zealander, 3 New Zealanders who can't live in their own country because of the extent to which they've been spied on and harassed and endangered? And no, nobody has the balls to stand up and say this is not okay. And to date, no press freedom organization has showed the slightest interest or care. My work has been shared by WikiLeaks every year for 4 years. 4 years. So it's not like they can claim like that I'm, some unknown, like what, it's like the most significant media organization in the world has shared my work every year for 4 years. But everyone will watch. They will watch and see, will Susie be killed? What will happen to Susie? They'll observe, but who will have the guts to speak up?
Exactly, and that's what I want to write about, for sure. Because I think it's important. It's like pointing out the silence is important. And I think, it's so easy to go through your life and kind of just not be aware of that issue. And it's, you have to sit down and kind of point to that gap and really highlight its importance to people.
So anyways, I'm going to work no matter frickin' what. And I'm going to study these documents no matter what, because I believe in that work. And I'm not going to sit silently and hope that someone else will do it. I'm not going to sit silently and watch someone else do it. And that's the source of my personal mana, is that we used to say, like I said in my documentary, and this is true, our media team used to say this to each other before every event we didn't want to cover. This is the thing people don't understand, is we're committed to the work. It doesn't mean that it's easy or that we want to. Like me and my best friends on my media team, we used to say before every action, we'd be like, oh my God, can't be bothered doing this. I don't have babysitter, I don't have gas money, I've got like 150 reasons not to show up tomorrow, but if we don't, who's going to do it?
Exactly.
If we don't, who is going to do it? We knew if we didn't go, there would be no coverage. It wouldn't get into the international press. There wouldn't be, people would be risking their lives for nothing. And if we did go and made the sacrifice, we also knew we'd be targeted even harder and would pay a price for it. But we knew the message would get out there and that it would have an impact. And so time and time again, we chose that. And it's not just me. It is literally an entire team of us, that like total civilians, grandmothers, students, just normal people that got up and did that every event, every week in and out, week in and week out. So it's not that it's easy. It's not that it's convenient, because it's certainly not, but it is important and it is necessary. And if not us, then who?
Exactly.
So here we are at Decipher for you, because if not us, then who?
Exactly. I think it's a great tagline. I know it's said a lot, but I think it's extremely relevant in this issue. So I think it's a great note to end on.